Is this some kind of joke, Arthur? The words sliced through the steady hum of servers and the clacking of keyboards, sharp and dripping with disdain. Lieutenant Chloe Vance loomed over the cramped, cluttered desk, her arms folded tightly across her chest. Her youthful face was hardened with irritation, the glow from multiple monitors casting a cold, mechanical shimmer across her eyes. Arthur Goodwin didn't bother to look up. At 82, every motion he made carried the quiet precision of long practice. His gnarled hand mapped with pale scars, and the wear of time moved steadily across the page, pencil whispering against the worn leather-bound notebook as he made careful, exact entries. He was a rock in the middle of a furious technological current, and the current was starting to resent him. The temporary Naval Operations Center buzzed with controlled chaos. Rows of climate-controlled tents stretched across a dusty, forgotten patch of land housing a web of cables, screens, and overworked personnel. Young sailors and officers, none past 30, moved with jittery purpose, their faces glowing in the reflected light of streaming data. They were the nerve center of a vast joint task force, coordinating intelligence, logistics, and communications with surgical precision. And in the middle of that storm sat Arthur Goodwin, a civilian contractor whose quiet presence felt out of place in a world powered by algorithms and encrypted systems. While others commanded satellites and quantum-resistant servers, he sat with a pencil and a battered leather notebook tracking data by hand, like some ancient clerk adrift in the digital age. "I asked you a question," Lieutenant Chloe Vance snapped, her voice cutting sharply through the air. A few heads turned. Most quickly ducked back to their work, unwilling to be caught in the crossfire. Arthur didn't respond. He finished his sentence, dotted the end of it carefully, then looked up. His pale blue eyes were calm, neither defiant nor afraid. "No, Lieutenant," he said softly. "It's not a joke." "Then what exactly is that?" She jabbed a manicured finger at his notebook. "Running a multi-billion-dollar operation on encrypted, redundant, quantum-proof servers. We have live feeds from satellites, drones, and field units." "Why on earth are you scribbling in that diary like some 19th century ship's clerk?" Arthur placed his pencil neatly beside the book, aligning it perfectly. "It's a secondary ledger," he explained. "A manual backup. It helps me cross-reference the digital logs for inconsistencies." "Inconsistencies?" Vance laughed coldly. "The system is flawless. What you're doing is a security risk secured analog data in a classified zone. That's not diligence, that's a liability." The word hung in the air like a death sentence. In a place like this, being labeled a liability was worse than incompetence. It meant danger to the mission, to the team, to everyone. "It has served its purpose well for many years," Arthur said evenly, his voice a stark contrast to the tension pulsing through the room. "I don't care if it was carved on a stone tablet by Moses himself," Vance snapped. "It's not protocol. Your job is administrative support, tracking requisitions, ensuring supplies are where they need to be, and keeping the coffee flowing. You are not here to indulge your little nostalgia projects." Her words cut deep, stripping him of dignity in front of the entire operations floor. Petty Officer Simmons, stationed nearby, winced. He'd always admired the old man's quiet kindness, the way Arthur noticed when someone was burning out and would wordlessly slide a fresh cup of coffee their way. Seeing him humiliated like this felt wrong. But Vance wasn't done. She leaned in close, her voice dropping to a venomous whisper. "Honestly, I don't even know how you passed the background check. An octogenarian with a notebook? Who are you really?" She gestured toward the glowing equipment. "This is the future, fast, precise, digital. There's no place for driftwood or sentimentality." Arthur's gaze drifted down to his notebook. His hand rested gently on the cover, protective. He said nothing. His silence only infuriated her more. "I want to see what's in that book," she demanded, reaching for it. Without thinking, Arthur's hand moved, clamping down over hers, firm but not violent. It was a simple, unshakable motion, the reflex of a man used to danger. For an instant, Vance felt a startling strength in his grip, an echo of something far older and harder than his age suggested. Their eyes met, and in his, she glimpsed a flicker of another man from another time. Then he released her. The tent went dead silent. Only the hum of electronics filled the space. Vance yanked her hand back, her cheeks burning red.
Oh.
She had just been physically defied by the old man who brewed the coffee. "That's it," she hissed, trembling with fury. "That's assault. You're done here. I'm reporting this to the Command Master Chief. You'll be removed from this base today." Arthur didn't respond. He simply turned a page and resumed writing. As Vance stormed off to make her call, the room seemed to shrink with unease. The sailors kept their eyes on their screens, pretending not to see, but the air was heavy with discomfort. She was a Lieutenant Tambitious, untouchable. It was just Arthur. No one dared intervene. No one except Simmons. Couldn't ignore what he'd seen. He waited until Vance was occupied, berating a junior officer, and slipped quietly out of the main tent. He crossed the compound quickly, heading for the smaller admin tent, where Command Master Chief Rivera worked. Rivera looked up from his paperwork, irritation etched across his face. "What is it, Simmons? This is about rosters? Now's not the time." "No, Master Chief," Simmons said, voice shaking slightly. "It's about Arthur Goodwin." In the talk, Lieutenant Vance is tearing into him in front of everyone. She's threatening to have him thrown off base. Said he assaulted her. But he didn't. He just wouldn't let her take his notebook. "It's not right, sir. Someone has to do something." Rivera studied the young sailor. The kid's distress was genuine. He'd heard of Vance's temper before, but this sounded different. And the name Arthur Goodwin. It triggered something. Rivera remembered a special addendum buried in his briefing packet months ago, one about select civilian personnel. "She tried to take his notebook," Rivera murmured. "Yes, Master Chief." Something cold gripped Rivera's gut. He shot to his feet, his chair screeching against the plywood floor. "Thank you, petty officer. You did the right thing. Go back to your post and don't speak of this to anyone. Understood?" "Yes, Master Chief." As soon as Simmons was gone, Rivera picked up the secure phone. He didn't call Vance's superior, didn't even call security. He went straight. Up the chain dialing, the encrypted line to the Joint Task Force Command. Admiral Morrison's office came a crisp voice, Commander Davies speaking. "Commander, this is Command Master Chief Rivera at the forward base. I need to speak to the Admiral urgent matter." The Admiral is in a classified briefing with Washington. "He can't be interrupted," Rivera cut in, his voice steely. "Tell him there's a situation involving a civilian contractor. The name is Arthur Goodwin." There was silence. Rivera could hear faint murmurs in the background, papers shuffling, voices stopping. Finally, Davies's voice returned, stripped of its earlier formality. "Say that name again, Master Chief. Arthur Goodwin." Another long pause. Rivera waited, picturing the note being slid across the Admiral's desk, the widening of eyes, the disbelief turning to alarm. When Davies finally spoke again, his voice was tight. "The Admiral is on his way." Back in the operations tent, Vance was basking in her own authority. She spoke loudly, ensuring everyone could hear her final verdict. "Let this serve as a reminder," she announced. "Operational security is not optional. Defiance, non-compliance, or insubordination will result in immediate removal. No exceptions for age or sentimentality." Turning to Arthur, she delivered her final blow. "Security will escort you out. You'll be sent for evaluation. Maybe they'll find out what's really wrong with you." It was a cruel, calculated humiliation. A public declaration that he wasn't just obsolete, but unstable. Arthur looked up at her for the first time. His expression was calm, almost sad. Slowly, he closed the notebook and rested both hands flat on its cover. Then, from outside, came a sound no one expected first, a low rumble. Then the growing roar of multiple turbines and the crunch of heavy tires on gravel. It wasn't the rumble of a single security jeep, it was an entire convoy. Heads turned as the tent flap flew open, slapping hard against its frame. Two Marines in full-dress blues stepped inside, rifles held at present arms, taking their posts like statues flanking a throne. The steady hum of machines and muted chatter that had filled the room moments earlier died instantly, replaced by a suffocating silence. Then he appeared. Rear Admiral Morrison, too. Silver stars gleamed on the collar of his immaculate uniform. He was tall, commanding, and radiated an authority that drew every ounce of air from the room. At his side walked Commander Davies and Command Master Chief Rivera, both grave-faced and silent. Asterisk attention on deck. Rivera barked. Every sailor. An officer in the tent, including Lieutenant Chloe Vance, snapped to attention, rigid and pale. The unexpected arrival of the task force commander inside the Tactical Operations Center meant one of two things. Either a global crisis had begun, or someone's career was about to end spectacularly. Everyone stood at attention. Everyone except Arthur Goodwin. He remained seated, calm, his weathered hands resting gently atop his desk. Admiral Morrison's piercing gaze swept the room, passing over every nervous face until it landed on the old man at the back. In an instant, the Admiral's severe expression shifted his cold command. Demeanor softened into something rare and unmistakable. Deep respect. Without a word, Morrison strode straight toward Arthur. The room seemed to shrink around him, every eye following the Admiral's silent approach. He stopped in front of the cluttered desk, squared his shoulders, and then, before anyone could process what was happening, executed a sharp, flawless salute. It was a salute of reverence, the kind reserved not for a superior officer, but for a legend. Master Chief Goodwin, the Admiral's voice rang out, strong and solemn. "It is an honor, sir." The tent was utterly still. Arthur rose slowly from his chair. Though time had curved his back, he stood tall, with quiet dignity. He returned the salute, crisp and steady, the movement of a man who had done so countless times in his life. "Admiral Arthur," said softly, his voice carrying effortlessly through the silence. Only when Arthur lowered his hand did Morrison drop his own. Then he turned, eyes blazing, to face the stunned crowd. His gaze found Vance, who looked like she might collapse under its weight. "For those of you who were not properly briefed," Morrison began, his tone low but dangerous, "you have been working alongside a living legend." He gestured toward Arthur. "This man is Master Chief Cryptologic Technician Arthur Goodwin. I tired." A ripple of confusion ran through the younger personnel. A Master Chief was a senior rank, yes, but not one that typically earned a two-star Admiral's salute. The Admiral continued, voice rising with controlled intensity. "In 1982, Master Chief Goodwin single-handedly prevented a catastrophic naval engagement in the North Atlantic by cracking the Cassifera code, our most advanced computers declared unbreakable. He did it with nothing more than a pencil, paper, and a mind that could see order in chaos where machines saw only noise." He pointed to the worn notebook on Arthur's desk. "That notebook you dismissed as outdated, Lieutenant. Contains cross-references for every major logistical movement in this theater. His work has caught 3 major errors in the past month, alone saving us millions of dollars and, more importantly, saving lives. Those inconsistencies he looks for are the digital ghosts that can kill people if left unchecked." Morrison took a deliberate step toward Vance. "His quiet diligence is more vital to this mission than half the glowing screens you treat like gospel. He's here not for pay, but because his sense of duty won't let him stay home. That is something few of you will ever understand." Vance's face had gone white. She stared at Arthur, the man she'd humiliated, and saw him as he truly was. Not a relic, but a titan whose life's work was woven into the very security she took for granted. The weight of her own arrogance crushed down on her. The Admiral's voice dropped to a deadly calm. "Lieutenant Vance, your record says you graduated top of your class. Yet somehow, you missed the most important lesson. That wisdom doesn't adjand, that the past still has power when wielded by those who respect it. Your ignorance is matched only by your arrogance. You will report to my office at 0600. Pack your gear. You're being reassigned." In a single, measured paragraph, he had dismantled her career. But before she could stammer a word, Arthur spoke. "Admiral," he said quietly, "with all due respect, the lieutenant was performing her duties as she understood them. Her zeal for security was misdirected, but her intent was sound. She's young. She still sees the world in ones and zeros. It takes time to learn to read the spaces in between." The room went silent again, but this time with awe. He had just defended the very person who'd publicly shamed him. His grace carried more power than any reprimand ever could. As he glanced down at his notebook, a memory flickered in his mind, decades earlier. A grizzled mentor had handed him that very book before his first deployment. "The machines lie, kid," the old Master Chief had told him. Data can be corrupted, but what you see with your eyes, what your gut tells you, you write that down. Your mind and this book are the only tools you can ever truly trust. The aftermath was swift. Lieutenant Chloe Vance was reassigned to a records management office in Norfolk, Virginia, quiet graveyard for stalled careers. Her punishment was poetic. A life surrounded by paper and dust, an analog exile for her digital pride. But Admiral Morrison didn't stop there. He introduced a new training directive across the entire task force. The Goodwin Doctrine, a mandatory program teaching young officers the importance of human intuition, experience, and humility. Arthur Goodwin remained at his post, doing his quiet work as always. But now, sailors approached him with quiet reverence. They brought him coffee, asked questions, listened to his stories. He had become the steady heart of the operations center, the soul of the mission. Months later, in a small Norfolk coffee shop, Chloe Vance stirred her drink, watching rain streak down the window. Her new assignment was monotonous, but it had taught her more than she'd ever learned at the academy. The door chime rang. Arthur Goodwin walked in, moving slowly, ordering his tea. She could have left, but instead, she rose, paid for his drink, and brought it to his table. When he looked up, his pale blue eyes met hers, calm, kind, and knowing. "Master Chief," she said softly, the first time she'd ever used his title. He gave a single nod of acknowledgement. No words of forgiveness, no lecture. Just quiet acceptance. She smiled faintly, turned, and walked away. Because some lessons don't need to be spoken. The truest heroes rarely seek recognition. Their greatness isn't measured in medals or noise, but in the quiet, unwavering fulfillment of duty long after others have forgotten what honor means. If Arthur Goodwin's story inspired you, like this video, subscribe to Veteran Valor, and share it with someone who still believes in true honor. Tell us in the comments which story of quiet courage you want to hear next.